and bringing it all to bear on the situation at hand. Can you imagine how optimally we would be functioning if we could muster most of ourselves in a given situation instead of being distracted and scattered all over the place? When I was talking to my child knew he had 100% of my attention. Could you imagine the difference? And what about a significant other or a spouse? If you were really completely present in the relationship? And what about when you're writing that paper or doing that project for work? If you could really focus and bring everything you are to bear. Whoa, my life would look different. Let's go further. I'm going to skip 4 for now. We're up to 5 on our sheet. So this is very nice, and this helps us to know our purpose. Our purposes are brought to us. We don't have to seek them out. They're a confluence of bringing our own energies to bear on the opportunities that are presented, certainly in terms of spiritual purpose. But there are very practical applications. The body is limited, the soul is not. The body can sometimes execute choices, and sometimes it can't. If I got a cold over the weekend. I drank tea yesterday from the morning till the night. I just drank tea. I said, I have to be well. I have to go to Palo Alto tomorrow. This is not a time to have a cold. This is not a time to get sick. This is just no can do. But you know, colds, and I thought it was only a cold and nothing worse. They don't check in with our secretaries to find out what would be a good time for them to arrive. They come when they come, and they go when they go. So I can make all the plans in the world. And if I would have not been able to move this morning, that would have been a very big problem. So our bodies can sometimes choose, and sometimes they can't execute those choices. But our souls are unbound. They are not fettered by the limitations of our bodies. Therefore, our souls can always choose. And there's 2 points that I want to make about this. And it's really important in any journey of introspection to know this. The first point is actually the point that I just made. That no matter how limited the body or how enslaved from the outside, the soul can never be fettered. My father, may he rest in peace, was from Germany. Because he was from Germany, and that's where the Holocaust started from, he spent the very formative years from when he was 17 till he was 21 in concentration camps. So he told me, he did me actually a favor. He didn't talk about this stuff too much until I was a little bit older. But he told me that the first year that they were in the camps, they tried to keep a calendar, and they knew when Passover was. So they traded their rations for flour. They mixed the flour with some water. They turned over a metal garbage can. They made a fire in the metal garbage can. And they cooked very rudimentary matzahs on top of the garbage can. The second year, they didn't even know when it was Passover. They didn't know when Pesach was, because that's what it was in that time. But they wanted to do Pesach. They wanted matzah for Pesach. So they approximated, they guessed, they didn't know. And that week, they traded their rations for potato peelings. And that's what they ate. The body was enslaved, but the soul was free. And the soul was flying. And there's another point as well. Which does love my mind. I'll come back to it. But let's go. Let's look at number, oh yes, I remember the point. Sorry. I heard this from a very wise woman. The great thing about being Jewish, one of the great things about being Jewish, is that you know that you're never a finished product. So just as I come to teach, I also go to learn. And I'm constantly studying and working, hopefully, on myself. So I'm going to share this with you. And this is very important to me. The body can't always choose. Sometimes it can and sometimes it can't. The soul can always choose. But one thing that we have to know is that whatever our situation is, and even if it's a situation of our own making, in other words, I messed up. I completely blew it at work. I took an incomplete in the course in school. I blew it with my kids. I said I wasn't going to scream, and I screamed. I said I wasn't going to get angry, and I got angry. And then you're in that bad space of like, how could I have? Why did I do that again? It's important, this too is a thing of the soul, and that is that in every situation that we're in, even if it's a situation of our own making, there's always a choice that we can make, tiny though it may be, that can make the situation better, that can affect us in a positive way, or affect the situation in a positive way. Not magic fixes, not broad sweeping changes, but there's always a step that we can take towards something more positive for ourselves, something more positive for the situation. Sometimes it's just a weak smile. Sometimes it's just to take somebody's hands. Sometimes it's just to look into somebody's eyes. And as much as it's hard for you to say I'm sorry. But there's always something that we could do, a choice of the soul. And that's our choice, whether to choose the soul or to choose the body. So, number 6, language skills. We are used to listening to the cues of the treating committee of our bodies, and to a certain extent, to the cues of our minds. However, we need to familiarize ourselves with the cues of our soul to become more familiar with our own essence. Remember, the body is transient. Nobody gets it. No one escapes that part. In flux, our bodies, the cells completely replace themselves every couple of years. Aging from the moment of birth. Unreliable. I'm starting to feel it at my age. Okay? Subject to harm. I hope that the pilot knew what he was doing this morning when he was flying that plane. Concerned with self. I was really concerned about myself getting to San Francisco this morning. I wasn't as concerned about everybody else getting to San Francisco. And seeking physical pleasure. I had to really decide this morning that I want another cup of coffee, maybe like orange juice would be nice. They don't give you so many options today on the planes. But I was just thinking, what would I really enjoy at the moment? The soul, on the other hand, is permanent. It predates our bodies and it postdates our bodies. It's constant. It's a chelek Eloka Mima'al. It's a piece of the divine. It's the most constant thing. It's ageless. It's reliable. You cannot damage your soul. You can damage your body, but you cannot damage your soul. The soul is other-directed. It seeks connections. And it seeks pleasure, but not physical pleasure, spiritual pleasure. I made a little table so that we could come to know ourselves better. It's not an exhaustive table. I've been learning about this stuff for many years. So I just put a table that comes from different sources. So these are cues, so that you can listen to your own mind, listen to your own thoughts, listen to your own speech. Watch what you do and know yourself better.